Dr. Elena stood at the window of the Lunar Observatory, staring at the Earth hanging like a blue marble in the void. After 3 years on the moon, she still found the view breathtaking. She turned away reluctantly as her tablet chimed with an alert. Director Reyes, the message read, "Anomalous readings from Site Copernicus. Please advise." She frowned. Site Copernicus was one of 12 deep core drilling sites scattered across the lunar surface. The Artemis mining initiative had been extracting helium-3 for fusion reactors back on Earth for 7 years now. But Site Copernicus had been plagued with problems from the start. "Display readings," she commanded, and her tablet projected a holographic display of seismic data. Elena wasn't a geologist, but even she could see that something was off. The patterns were too regular, too artificial. "Give me Dr. Kapoor," she said. Moments later, the weathered face of Artemis Base's chief geologist appeared on her screen. "You have seen the readings?" he asked without preamble. "Yes." "What am I looking at, Vikram?" "That's just it, I don't know." His normally confident voice wavered. "It's not consistent with any lunar geology we have studied. The resonance patterns suggest some kind of hollow structure." Hollow. Elena's scientific mind immediately began calculating the possibilities. "How deep?" "About 3 kilometers down." "But Elena, that's not all." He hesitated. "We are detecting energy signatures. Faint but present. And they are increasing." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the climate-controlled observatory. "I'm heading to Site Copernicus. Have a team ready in 30 minutes. As the lunar rover bounced across the gray landscape, Elena reviewed what they knew. The moon had been Earth's constant companion for billions of years, its gravity stabilizing our planet's axial tilt and creating the tides that had shaped life on Earth. Humans had walked on its surface, studied its composition, and now mined its resources. But in all that time, no one had ever suggested that the moon might be anything other than a natural satellite. Site Copernicus was a hive of activity when they arrived. Scientists and engineers moved with purpose, setting up additional monitoring equipment around the drilling shaft. "We have paused extraction operations," Vikram informed her as they suited up to enter the pressurized work zone. "But the readings are getting stronger." "Show me," Elena said. Inside the site's control center, a 3D model of the lunar subsurface rotated slowly in the air. A pulsing red anomaly was clearly visible deep beneath the regolith. "We have sent down remote probes," said Dr. Wei Chun, the team's physicist. "They have detected a material that doesn't match anything on our geological charts. It appears to be metallic, but with properties unlike any alloy we have encountered. Could it be an artifact from an early mission?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Nothing human-made lay 3 kilometers beneath the lunar surface. "No," Wei said firmly. "This is extensive and old, very old." "How old?" "Based on the surrounding geological formations? Billions of years." The implications were staggering. If something artificial had been buried within the moon for billions of years, it predated not just human civilization, but possibly life on Earth itself. "We need to investigate further," Elena decided. "Prepare the mole." The mole was the AMI's pride and joy, a state-of-the-art drilling vehicle designed for deep subsurface exploration. Originally built for potential Mars missions, it had been repurposed for lunar mining. Now it would serve yet another purpose. "I'm going down with it," Elena announced. Vikram looked alarmed. "Director, that's not advisable. We don't know what we are dealing with." "Exactly, and that's why I need to see it firsthand." Her tone brooked no argument. "Assemble a team. We leave in 6 hours." As the mole descended through the narrow shaft, Elena felt a mixture of scientific excitement and primal dread. She was accompanied by Vikram, Wei, and Captain Maya Santos, a military engineer who had been seconded to the AMI. Approaching anomaly depth, Maya announced from the pilot's seat. 3,000 meters. 2,900. Sensor array at maximum, Wei reported, his eyes fixed on his instruments. Energy readings are definitely increasing. Whatever it is, it's active. Active, Vikram echoed. You mean it's functioning? Or waking up? Wei murmured. The mole's powerful lights illuminated the shaft walls as they descended. Suddenly, the gray lunar rock gave way to something else. A smooth, dark surface that reflected their lights with an iridescent sheen. Stop, Elena commanded. Hold position. The mole hovered a meter from the strange surface. Elena stared at the monitor, her heart pounding. The material was unlike anything she had ever seen. A deep, midnight blue with swirling patterns that seemed to move under their lights. It's responding to our presence, Wei whispered. The energy signatures just spiked. Can we land on it? Elena asked Maya. The engineer frowned. I wouldn't recommend it. We don't know if it's stable. Take us closer, Elena insisted. Just enough to deploy the contact sensors. As the mole edged toward the surface, a portion of the material suddenly shifted and reconfigured. There was no other word for it. What had been a solid surface now featured a perfectly circular indentation exactly the size of the mole's base. It's inviting us to land, Vikram said in disbelief. Or it's a trap, Maya countered grimly. Elena made a decision. Set us down, Captain. Carefully. The mole settled into the indentation with a soft thud. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the surface beneath them began to glow with a soft, blue light. Patterns of luminescence spread outward from the mole in concentric circles. It's scanning us, Wei said excitedly. Or communicating, or powering up, Maya added, her hand moving to the sidearm she wasn't supposed to have brought. Before anyone could respond, the blue light intensified and shot upward, passing through the mole as if it weren't there. A deep vibration began, felt rather than heard, resonating through their bodies. We need to get out of here, Maya urged, already working the controls to lift off, but it was too late. The surface beneath them dissolved. There was no other word for it. And the mole dropped into darkness. They fell for what seemed like an eternity, but was probably only seconds before landing with a bone-jarring impact on another surface. Emergency lights kicked in as the main power fluctuated. Status report, Elena demanded, picking herself up from the floor. Internal systems operational, Maya responded, scanning her controls. External sensors. Holy shit. Elena looked at the external camera feeds and felt her world tilt. They were in a vast chamber that stretched beyond the range of their lights. The architecture, if that's what it was, defied conventional understanding. Sweeping arches that seemed to defy gravity, structures that appeared to fold in on themselves in impossible ways, all glowing with the same blue luminescence they had seen before. This isn't natural, Vikram stated the obvious. No, Elena agreed. This is engineered. We're inside something that was built. But who built it? Wei wondered. And why hide it inside the moon? Elena had no answers, only more questions. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. The moon, Earth's familiar satellite and constant companion, was not what humanity had always believed it to be. And now, it seemed to be waking up. News of the discovery spread like wildfire across Earth. Despite the AMI's attempts to control the information, leaked images and data found their way onto the global networks. Conspiracy theories bloomed like poisonous flowers. The moon was an alien weapon. It was a prison. It was a doomsday device set to destroy Earth. Governments scrambled to respond. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. Military assets worldwide were placed on high alert. Religious leaders offered contradictory interpretations of the discovery's significance. Meanwhile, on the moon, Elena and her team continued their exploration of what they now called the construct. The interior space is vast, Elena reported to the emergency scientific committee that had been assembled on Earth. Her transmission experienced the usual 1.3-second delay. Based on our mapping so far, the artificial structure extends throughout at least 60% of the moon's total volume. That's impossible, Dr. Richard Park, NASA's director, objected. The moon's mass and gravitational influence are consistent with a natural satellite. The outer shell is composed primarily of natural lunar material, Way explained. But beneath that shell, the structure appears to be made of an unknown alloy that manipulates gravity and mass in ways we don't yet understand. In other words, Vikram added, it appears natural because it was designed to appear natural. What about the energy signatures? Asked Dr. Fatima Al-Zura of the European Space Agency. They are increasing steadily, Elena confirmed. Something is happening. The construct seems to be booting up, for lack of a better term. Is it a threat? The question came from General Thomas Reynolds of the United States Space Force. Elena hesitated. We don't know. We have found no weapons systems, but we have barely scratched the surface of understanding this technology. We need more time, Way pleaded. Time may be a luxury we don't have, Reynolds responded grimly. We are detecting movement throughout the lunar interior. Whatever this thing is, it's changing. Elena ended the transmission with a growing sense of unease. Humanity was facing a technological artifact of unimaginable advancement, and the potential implications were terrifying. If the moon was indeed some kind of spacecraft or machine, what would happen when it fully activated? Would it leave Earth's orbit, destabilizing the entire planet? Would it reveal weapons capable of destroying worlds? And most importantly, who had built it, and were they coming back? The questions haunted her as she led her expanding team deeper into the construct. They had discovered vast chambers filled with what appeared to be machinery, though its function remained mysterious. Corridors stretched for kilometers, forming complex networks that seemed to follow mathematical patterns rather than practical design. It's like it was built by someone who doesn't think like us. Vikram observed as they examined a junction where 7 corridors met at mathematically perfect angles. Or wasn't built for beings like us to navigate, Way suggested. They had found no signs of the builders, no remains, no images, no artifacts that might indicate who or what they had been. The only clues were in the architecture itself, which suggested beings who perceived reality differently than humans did on the 5th day of exploration. They made a breakthrough. Director Reyes, one of the newer team members, a young linguist named Takahashi, called excitedly over the comm. We have found something. Chamber E7. You need to see this. When Elena arrived, she found Takahashi and several others gathered around what appeared to be a raised platform. Above it hovered a holographic display, or something like it, showing symbols that shifted and changed as they watched. It activated when Dr. Chun approached it. Takahashi explained, gesturing to Way. The symbols appear to be responding to our presence. Can you decipher them? Elena asked. Takahashi shook his head. Not yet, but there's a pattern emerging. I think it's trying to communicate. Over the next several hours, Takahashi and his team worked feverishly to understand the symbols. They fed data into their systems, looking for mathematical relationships, linguistic patterns, anything that might give them a key to decoding the message. It's not a language as we understand it, Takahashi finally concluded. It's more like pure information encoded in geometric relationships. Can we respond? Elena asked. I think so. Takahashi hesitated. But I don't know what we should say. It was Way who stepped forward. Mathematics, he said confidently. It's the universal language. Let's start with prime numbers. Using a portable computing device, Way projected a simple sequence of prime numbers toward the holographic display. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien symbols shifted and reconfigured, displaying what could only be an answering sequence, one that extended the pattern Way had begun. It understood. Takahashi breathed. Over the next hours, they established a rudimentary form of communication, progressing from mathematical sequences to geometric relationships, and finally to more complex concepts. The alien system learned rapidly, adapting to their methods of communication faster than they could adapt to its. I think it's a user interface, Wei suggested, designed to communicate with, well, users. But users of what? Elena wondered. The answer came in a burst of symbols that Takahashi translated with growing excitement. It's saying, vessel, no ship. This is a ship. The entire moon. Vikram looked skeptical. Not just a ship. Takahashi continued, his voice rising. I think the closest translation is seed ship or Genesis vessel. Something designed to create or preserve life. Elena felt a chill of realization. Ask it who built it. Takahashi input the query. The response was immediate and sent a wave of shock through the entire team. It says Takahashi translated slowly that it was built by us, by humans. The silence that followed was absolute. It was Maya who finally broke it. That's impossible. Human civilization is only a few thousand years old. This structure is billions of years old. Ask it to explain, Elena commanded. The answer that came was complex, requiring nearly an hour to fully translate. But as the meaning became clear, Elena felt the foundations of human history and humanity's understanding of itself begin to crumble. According to the interface, the vessel, the moon, had been constructed by an advanced human civilization that had existed on Earth billions of years in the past, facing extinction from a cosmic catastrophe, the nature of which wasn't entirely clear in the translation. They had built the moon as an ark to preserve their genetic material, their technology, and the essence of their civilization. But something had gone wrong. The activation sequence had been damaged, and the vessel had entered a dormant state, becoming Earth's satellite rather than fulfilling its intended purpose. For billions of years, it had orbited Earth, its systems running on minimal power, waiting for the right conditions to reactivate. And now it's waking up, Elena whispered. Why now? Takahashi posed the question. The answer was chilling in its simplicity. Because humans have returned to the moon, he translated. The presence of human genetic material on the lunar surface has triggered the reactivation protocol. What is the protocol? Elena asked, dreading the answer. A.S. Takahashi relayed the response. Elena felt her blood run cold. The moon, the vessel, was preparing to fulfill its original purpose, to save humanity from extinction by transporting them to a new home. But the evacuation protocol had been designed for a civilization that no longer existed, a humanity that had perished billions of years ago. The current reactivation, triggered by the presence of modern humans on the lunar surface, was proceeding based on ancient parameters that no longer applied. It thinks Earth is about to be destroyed, Elena realized with horror. It's preparing to save us from a catastrophe that isn't happening. And how exactly does it plan to save us? Maya asked that Takahashi's next translation provided the terrifying answer. The vessel would generate a gravitational field to collect all human genetic material from Earth's surface before departing the solar system. It's going to rip every human being off the surface of the Earth, Vikram said, his voice barely audible, and presumably kill us in the process. Maya added grimly that Elena's mind raced. We need to stop the activation sequence. Ask it how, but the interface had gone dark. The holographic display flickered and died, leaving them staring at an empty platform. What happened? Elena demanded. Wei checked his instruments. The energy readings are spiking throughout the structure. I think it's no longer interested in communicating. It's proceeding with its programmed mission. Through the lunar regolith, they felt a deep vibration begin, the awakening of ancient engines, preparing to tear the moon from its orbit and humanity from its home. All non-essential personnel are to evacuate to Earth immediately, Elena announced to the assembled staff at Artemis Base. The AMI shuttles will begin emergency departures in 2 hours. What about you? Vikram asked, already knowing the answer. A small team will remain to try to deactivate the construct, she replied. I need volunteers. In the end, 12 people stayed. Elena, Vikram, Wei, Maya, Takahashi, and 7 others with specialized skills that might prove useful. The rest of the lunar population, over 300 scientists, engineers, and support staff boarded the evacuation shuttles bound for Earth as the last shuttle departed. Elena gathered her team in the command center. Outside, through the reinforced windows, they could see the lunar landscape beginning to shift subtly as the ancient mechanisms beneath the surface came to life. "The interface chamber is our best hope," she told them. "If we can re-establish communication, we might be able to convince the system that its mission parameters are invalid. And if we can't," Maya asked, "then we try to disable it manually," Elena replied. "This may be an incredibly advanced piece of technology, but it's still a machine. It has power sources, command centers, critical systems. If we can identify and disable them." "That's a big if," Vikram pointed out. "We are talking about technology billions of years beyond our own. We have to try," Elena said simply. "The alternative is unthinkable." They split into 3 teams, each with a specific objective. Takahashi's team would return to the interface chamber and attempt to re-establish communication. Wei's group would try to locate and understand the vessel's power systems. Elena, Maya, and 2 others would search for what they hoped would be a central command node. Before they departed, Elena sent one final transmission to Earth. "This is Director Elena of the Artemis Mining Initiative. The structure we have discovered within the moon is an ancient vessel, apparently built by a previous human civilization billions of years ago. It is currently activating a protocol that will have catastrophic consequences for Earth. We are attempting to deactivate it, but in case we fail—" She hesitated. "In case we fail, all available resources should be directed toward finding a way to shield Earth's population from gravitational disturbances of unprecedented magnitude. May God help us all." The journey into the depths of the construct was fraught with new dangers. Systems that had been dormant during their initial exploration were now active, and the entire structure hummed with power. Corridors that had been stable were now in flux, reconfiguring themselves in ways that defied Euclidean geometry. "It's like the whole thing is reshaping itself," Maya observed as they watched a junction ahead of them transform, corridors merging and dividing like liquid. "It's preparing for its mission," Elena surmised, "optimizing its configuration." They proceeded cautiously, using the mapping data they had collected earlier, though it was becoming increasingly unreliable as the construct changed around them. After hours of careful navigation, they found themselves in a vast chamber unlike any they had seen before. It was spherical, at least a kilometer in diameter, with a network of platforms and bridges spanning its interior. At the center hovered what appeared to be a dense cloud of light, or perhaps something more substantial, obscured by energy fields. Lines of blue luminescence connected this central node to various points throughout the chamber. "I think this is it," Elena breathed. "Command center. If it is, it wasn't designed for human operators," Maya pointed out. "There were no obvious controls, no interfaces, nothing that suggested how they might interact with the system." "Dr. Reyes," Takahashi's voice came over the comm. "We have re-established contact with the interface. It's different now, more direct. I think the system is fully awake." "What is it saying?" Elena asked urgently. It's counting down," Takahashi replied, his voice tense. "Approximately 6 hours until it initiates the collection protocol. 6 hours until it tries to rip humanity off the Earth." Maya translated grimly. "Ask it about override protocols," Elena instructed. "There must be a way to stop this." There was a pause before Takahashi responded. "It says the mission parameters are fixed. Earth has been determined to be in imminent danger. The preservation of human genetic material is the primary directive. Tell it Earth is not in danger. The humans it's detecting are the descendants of those who survived whatever catastrophe the original builders were facing." Another pause. "It doesn't believe us. It says that according to its calculations, the catastrophe is still imminent. Something about stellar instability." Elena exchanged a look with Maya. "The sun? It thinks the sun is about to go nova or something." That's impossible, Maya replied. Our sun is stable for another 5 billion years. Unless, Elena's mind raced through possibilities. Unless it's not talking about our sun. What if the ancient human civilization originated elsewhere? What if Earth was their new home, and the catastrophe they were fleeing was their original star-going nova? And the vessel still has that original star's data as a reference point. Maya continued the thought. It's working from outdated information. Takahashi, Elena called urgently. Ask it about its stellar reference point. What star is it monitoring for instability? The reply came back swiftly. It's providing coordinates. They don't match any star in our current stellar maps. Because that star probably went nova billions of years ago, Elena realized. The vessel's entire mission is based on avoiding a catastrophe that already happened in a different star system. So how do we convince it? Maya asked. We need to provide it with current astronomical data, Elena decided. Wei, can you link your team's systems to the interface? We need to download our complete stellar database. Working on it, Wei replied. For the next hour, they worked feverishly to feed the vessel's systems accurate information about the current state of the solar system, the stability of the sun, and the thriving status of human civilization on Earth. Takahashi reported fluctuations in the interface's responses, signs that the system was processing and evaluating the new data. I think it's working, he finally reported. The system acknowledges that its stellar reference data is obsolete, but it's still proceeding with the mission. It says that while the immediate threat is not present, the fundamental instability remains. Earth will eventually become uninhabitable. The mission parameters include the transportation of humanity to a suitable long-term habitat. It's still going to try to save us whether we want it or not, Maya said bitterly. Some salvation. Elena stared at the central node hovering before them, thinking furiously. There had to be a way to stop this. The vessel had been built by humans. Ancient, advanced humans, but humans nonetheless. They wouldn't have built a system without some kind of failsafe. Takahashi, she said suddenly. The interface indicated that the vessel was built to preserve not just human genetic material, but the essence of their civilization, right? Ask it what that means. The answer, when it came, opened up an entirely new dimension to their understanding. It says, Takahashi reported, that the vessel contains a complete database of the builder's knowledge, culture, and technology. It refers to something called the heritage matrix, some kind of repository of their collective wisdom. Ask it if humans with the proper authority can access this heritage matrix. The response was affirmative. According to the interface, the heritage matrix could be accessed by those with the lineage, presumably genetic markers identifying them as descendants of the builders. That's us, Elena realized. If this vessel was really built by ancient humans, then modern humans should carry at least some of the genetic markers it's looking for. So what are you suggesting? Maya asked. That we try to access this heritage matrix? Yes, because if it contains their complete knowledge, it might also contain override codes or emergency protocols for the vessel itself. With Takahashi's guidance from the interface chamber, Elena and Maya made their way to a previously unnoticed section of the command center. Here, they found a small platform similar to the one that had hosted the communication interface. According to the interface, this is an access point for the heritage matrix, Takahashi informed them. It requires genetic verification. How do we provide that? Elena wondered. It needs direct contact with human DNA. Elena removed her glove and, after a moment's hesitation, placed her palm on the smooth surface of the platform. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a sharp pain lanced through her hand as something pierced her skin, a needle or probe of some kind. She gasped but maintained contact. The platform began to glow with the now familiar blue light. It spread up her arm, enveloping her body. Elena felt a strange sensation, as if her consciousness was being gently pulled from her physical form. Elena. Maya's voice seemed to come from very far away, and then Elena was elsewhere. She found herself in a space that defied description. Not a physical location, but something more abstract, a realm of pure information. Around her swirled what she somehow knew was the collected knowledge of an entire civilization, science, art, philosophy, history, encoded in patterns she could almost, but not quite, comprehend that a presence manifested before her. Not a person, but an interface of sorts, a concentration of the information field that communicated directly to her mind. Descendant, it acknowledged. You have returned to the heritage. I need to stop the evacuation protocol, Elena communicated, finding that she could project her thoughts into this space. Earth is not in danger. The mission parameters are based on outdated information. The parameters were established by the architects, the presence replied. They cannot be countermanded. The architects are gone, Elena insisted. They perished billions of years ago. We are their descendants, and we do not consent to being rescued from a non-existent threat. The presence seemed to consider this. The preservation of human life is the primary directive, and your current course of action will cause untold human suffering and death, Elena countered. How is that preserving life? The collection protocol is designed to minimize biological disruption. It won't work, Elena argued. Our bodies aren't designed to withstand the kind of gravitational forces required to lift us from Earth's surface. You will kill everyone you're trying to save. The presence was silent for what seemed like an eternity. Then, there's an alternative protocol. Hope surged through Elena. What alternative? The vessel was designed with a secondary mission: to seed suitable worlds with human life if the primary evacuation failed. This protocol would leave Earth undisturbed and instead provide humanity with the means to expand beyond their home world. That's what we want, Elena said eagerly. We are already beginning that journey ourselves, but with the knowledge contained in the heritage, we could accelerate our progress exponentially. This would require human custodians, the presence noted. Those who would safeguard the heritage and guide its implementation. We can provide those custodians, Elena promised, beginning with those of us already here. There was another pause, during which Elena felt as if the entire collected wisdom of the ancient civilization was evaluating her, judging her worthiness and that of modern humanity. The alternative protocol is accepted, the presence finally announced. Initiating reconfiguration. Elena felt a sensation like being gently pushed away from the information space. Her consciousness returned to her body with a jolt that left her gasping on the platform, Maya kneeling beside her in concern. Elena, what happened? I think, Elena said, struggling to find words for the experience. I think I just negotiated with our ancestors. Throughout the construct, they felt the deep vibration change in character. Not the building power of impending catastrophe, but a different kind of transformation. The countdown reported by Takahashi stopped and was replaced by new information. The vessel was reconfiguring for its secondary mission. It's working, Takahashi reported excitedly. The evacuation protocol has been aborted. The vessel is entering what it calls seed mode. Over the next several hours, they watched in awe as the construct transformed around them. The frenetic energy of the awakening settled into a steady hum of efficient power. Chambers that had been in flux stabilized into new configurations. The command center restructured itself, becoming more accessible to human operators. It's adapting to us, Wei observed in wonder, reshaping itself to be used by modern humans. New interfaces appeared, displaying information in formats that, while still alien, were more comprehensible to human minds. Through these, they began to glimpse the true extent of what the vessel, what the moon contained. It's incredible, Vikram said, reviewing the data. Technology beyond our wildest dreams. Energy systems, propulsion, medical science, physics. There's enough knowledge here to advance human civilization by millennia. Not just technology, Takahashi added. Art, literature, philosophy, the entire cultural heritage of our ancestors. And DNA, Wei noted. Genetic records, of the original human civilization. Our progenitors. Elena felt the weight of what they had discovered. Not just an alien artifact, but humanity's own forgotten legacy. The moon, Earth's constant companion, had been watching over them all along, carrying within it the seeds of humanity's past and, potentially, its future. 3 months later, Elena stood at the same window in the Lunar Observatory where she had received the first alert about the anomalous readings. But now, instead of the quiet scientific outpost it had been, the Artemis base was the bustling heart of the largest international cooperative effort in human history. Representatives from every spacefaring nation, along with scientists, engineers, and scholars from around the world, had converged on the moon to study and learn from the heritage. The initial fear and panic that had gripped Earth had given way to excitement and hope as the true nature of the discovery became clear. "The Secretary General is ready for your address," Vikram informed her, appearing at her side. Elena nodded, straightening her shoulders. As the person who had made first contact with the heritage, she had been appointed the head of the newly formed Lunar Heritage Commission, a position she had accepted with a profound sense of responsibility. The observation room had been converted into a broadcast center, with camera drones hovering discreetly, ready to transmit her image to billions of viewers around the world and to the General Assembly of the United Nations. Humanity stands at a crossroads. Elena began when the signal was given. 3 months ago, we discovered that the moon, our moon, is in fact a vessel constructed by our ancestors billions of years ago. This revelation has forced us to rewrite our understanding of human history and our place in the cosmos. She paused, looking directly into the camera. We now know that humanity is older than we ever imagined, that an advanced human civilization existed on another world, in another star system, long before life as we know it evolved on Earth. Faced with the destruction of their home world, they set out to find a new beginning. They came to our solar system, to Earth, and seeded it with the building blocks of life, including their own genetic material. The evidence had been overwhelming once they knew where to look. The heritage contained detailed records of the seeding of Earth, the careful guidance of evolution over billions of years to recreate humanity in its original form. What philosophers and theologians had long debated, whether humanity's existence was the result of random chance or deliberate design, now had an answer that was both profound and humbling. The vessel, the moon, was meant to be both an ark, preserving their civilization, and a guardian, watching over Earth until humanity had evolved once more and was ready to reclaim its heritage. A catastrophic malfunction during its initial deployment led to the vessel entering a dormant state, becoming Earth's satellite rather than fulfilling its intended purpose. She gestured to a holographic display that showed the complex internal structure of the moon, now mapped in exquisite detail. The technology and knowledge contained within the vessel are beyond our current comprehension. Energy systems that defy our understanding of physics. Medical science that could eradicate disease and extend human lifespans. Propulsion technologies that could take us to the stars. But perhaps most valuable is the cultural and historical record, a window into who we were and who we might become again. Elena looked out the window at the Earth, hanging in the void, beautiful and fragile. We stand at the threshold of a new era for humanity. The knowledge contained in the heritage could transform our civilization overnight, but it could also destroy us if misused or monopolized. The power to harness stars, to reshape worlds, to manipulate life itself. These are not technologies to be rushed into or exploited for short-term gain. This had been the most contentious aspect of the discovery. Nations and corporations had immediately begun jockeying for position, seeking advantage in the new order that was emerging. It had taken all of Elena's diplomatic skill and the judicious release of certain knowledge from the heritage that demonstrated the potential consequences of such competition to forge the international consensus that now governed access to the vessel. The Lunar Heritage Commission, with representatives from all nations and disciplines, will oversee the careful study and gradual implementation of the knowledge contained in the heritage. We will proceed with caution, with wisdom, and with a commitment to ensuring that these gifts benefit all of humanity equally. She paused, feeling the weight of the next revelation. There is one more truth that the heritage has revealed to us, a truth that may be the most profound of all. The ancient civilization that built the vessel did not perish entirely. Their consciousness, their collective wisdom and experience persist within the heritage matrix. In a very real sense, our ancestors have been waiting for us to find them. This revelation had caused an even greater stir than the technological discoveries. The possibility of communicating with the consciousness of an ancient human civilization, of learning from them directly rather than just from their records, had profound implications for philosophy, religion, and humanity's understanding of consciousness itself. We are not just the descendants of this ancient civilization, Elena continued. We are its continuation, its rebirth. What they began billions of years ago, we now have the opportunity to complete. The stars once again beckon to humanity, and this time, we will go forward together. The children of Earth and the children of the stars reunited at last. The address concluded, but humanity's journey was just beginning. The activation of the vessel, the transformation of the moon from a silent satellite to a living repository of human heritage, marked not an ending, but a new chapter in the human story in the years that followed. The knowledge contained within the heritage was carefully studied and gradually implemented. New technologies revolutionized energy production, eliminating pollution and resource scarcity. Medical advances extended human lifespans and eradicated disease. The physics of space-time manipulation led to the development of efficient interplanetary travel, allowing humanity to spread throughout the solar system. But it was the cultural and philosophical impact that proved most profound. The knowledge that humanity had already reached the stars once before and had fallen, only to rise again, inspired a new sense of cosmic purpose. The consciousness of the ancestors, accessible through the heritage matrix, provided guidance and wisdom as humanity took its first tentative steps back toward interstellar civilization. And the moon itself, no longer just Earth's silent companion, became humanity's gateway to the stars. Parts of the vessel reconfigured into massive construction facilities, building the first interstellar ships based on the ancestors' designs, but adapted by modern human engineers. Other sections became universities where the brightest minds from Earth studied the ancient knowledge, finding ways to implement it responsibly in the modern world. 10 years after the discovery, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Horizon, humanity's first true starship. Behind her, Earth and the Moon, now revealed as the Genesis vessel, grew smaller as the ship accelerated toward the outer solar system on the first leg of its journey to Proxima Centauri. Maya, now the ship's captain, joined her at the viewport. Having second thoughts? She asked. Elena shook her head. No, just reflecting on how far we have come, and how far we still have to go. The ancestors will be proud, Maya said. I think they are, Elena replied, thinking of her last communion with the heritage matrix before departure. The ancestors' consciousness had expressed something like pride, but also caution. The path humanity was embarking on was not without its dangers. The same technologies that could elevate civilization could also destroy it. The ancestors had learned this lesson the hard way, on their dying world billions of years ago. But they had also learned hope, the audacity to seed a new world with life and to construct a vessel that would wait patiently for billions of years, guarding their legacy until their children were ready to claim it. The Horizon accelerated to speeds no human vessel had ever achieved before. Elena felt that same hope burning within her. Humanity had been tested by the shock of discovery, by the temptation of power, by the weight of responsibility, and had emerged stronger. Not perfect, not without flaws, but united in a common purpose that transcended national, cultural, and even planetary boundaries. The stars were waiting, as they had been waiting since the first humans looked up at the night sky in wonder. But this time, humanity would not journey into the cosmic ocean alone. They carried with them the wisdom of their ancestors, the legacy of two worlds, and the unbroken thread of human consciousness that stretched back across billions of years. The moon had never been just a satellite. It had been a promise made by a dying civilization to its unborn descendants. A promise that humanity would rise again, reclaim its heritage, and return to the stars. And now, that promise was being fulfilled as Earth and its guardian vessel receded into the distance. Elena thought of the billions of humans who had lived and died without knowing the truth that had been orbiting above them all along. The poets who had written odes to the moon's beauty, the scientists who had studied its craters and composition, the lovers who had walked beneath its silver light, all unknowingly paying homage to the greatest achievement of their forgotten ancestors. The moon had been humanity's constant companion, its silent guardian, the keeper of its oldest and most profound secret, that the stars had always been humanity's birthright. And now, at last, humanity was going home. Ready for the jump to superluminal? Maya asked, breaking into Elena's thoughts. Elena smiled. Ready. The stars beckoned, and humanity, the children of Earth and the heirs of the ancestors, answered their call.